Cody Rhodes is signed with AEW. Hooray! Cody, 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 Cody. Cody's our guy. Wait, what do you mean he left to be the biggest star in the biggest company that's been around for the longest goddamn time? Fuck Cody Rhodes. We never needed him. He doesn't like AEW. He betrayed AEW. Ooh, Ricky Starks. We loved him in the NWA. Ricky Starks. He's our guy. Hooray, Rochambeau, Stroke Daddy, all that. And why would he leave us? He's betrayed AEW. Stephanie McCurr, she wrestled Mercedes Moné. Hooray, we're gonna get her. And what do you mean she signed with WWE? How dare she live her dream? Fuck Stephanie McCurr. She betrayed AEW. Mariah May has betrayed AEW after Tony Khan gave her everything. Adam Copeland has gone from the WWE to AEW. Oh, I wish he hadn't retired. Do you hear how fucking stupid your tribalistic bullshit sounds? You motherfucking inbred, incompetent, illiterate, absolutely mind-blowingly stupid fucks. God damn it, professional wrestling at the end of the day may be something that we revolve our lives around, but we really need to remember that wrestlers are people too. I'm John Redland with my real honest thoughts on wrestling, tribalism, and honestly the women's division as well. I've got a lot of stuff to say, as you can tell from that intro. This has been building for a while because, yes, it happens on every side. People in WWE or fans of WWE will be upset if one of their talents leaves. There's nothing wrong, by the way, with, appreciating a talent in a particular company. But here's an idea. Support the wrestlers, not the brand, not the company, because every company has flaws. Every company has issues. Not every company is the NWA. That's basically just a wasteland. But that being said, guys, you need to remember, wrestlers, they want to live their dreams. And some want to earn that money in AEW and have shots in Japan and be able to do their own thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Whether I like some of these talents, whether I don't like some of these talents, it doesn't matter. They are human beings that beat up their bodies for our entertainment. Man, woman, doesn't matter. Non-binary, gay, straight, LGBT, doesn't matter. They are people too, and they deserve to be respected as such. Unless they're god-awful people that, think that, think that basically anybody doesn't believe the way they do, like if they're all religious nuttery fucks, and they believe that anybody that doesn't think the way they do are sacrificing babies in the name of goat blood Satan or whatever the fuck. The whole thing is, you guys need to settle down. And me, do I need to settle down? Sure, because that's the whole point. You got to settle down about professional wrestling. Because professional wrestling, at the end of the day, is just something that we do love. And we can all get fired up about. We can want our favorite wrestlers to do well. We can want wrestlers that maybe we don't particularly care for, that are just trying to earn a really good living, sharing their love of professional wrestling, going out and doing what they do. There's nothing wrong with respecting the person, even if you don't necessarily care for their wrestling character. And I've realized that a lot of it is just people not respecting the fact that two mainstream U.S. companies being able to pay talents, overpay talents in some cases, it's a good thing. It goes back to the Attitude Era. More on that here in a bit when I get to another part of the video. But it seems to really be targeting the women, which I find goddamn hilarious. But first, the stuff about Cody. I'm not the biggest fan of Cody. I think Cody basically is a, glorified politician. He works hard. I'm not saying he doesn't, but he's always had an inflated sense of self-worth. He's not his dad. He will never be his dad. He'll never even be as good as Dustin. But he markets himself well and did what he could do in AEW. But then you had the Codyverse, you had that kind of stuff. Brandy was a big reason why that didn't work, because nobody really wanted to see her as an on-air personality, even though she did have that one classic thing. Who told you it was open mic night, bitch? Watch her try to recreate that. Now, Cody is in WWE. He's been there for a few years. Nothing wrong with that. And then the Lucha Bros, when they, basically ended up waiting out their contracts, essentially, and Penta debuted, and a lot of people were over the moon. Some weren't. Guys, they're people first and wrestlers second. I mean, my God. It's like, here's the thing. If there was one great boss on either side, Tony Khan or Triple H, Endeavor, whatever, then everybody would live in perfect harmony and everybody would just be happy, whether you're ebony or ivory. And Ivory is no longer with any company. She's just doing what she's doing. And bless Ivory. What a goddamn talent she was. And still is, I assume. But you then get to Ricky Starks, who showed up in WWE because he finally got his release. Again, if you're not going to use somebody, let them the fuck go. And that's the thing. That's what both companies need to do. Nick Khan can piss the hell off saying, oh, we don't sign people and just bench them. We use everybody. There are people under contract at WWE that I've totally goddamn forgotten about. There are people on the AEW side I keep forgetting even exist. That's one reason why Dark and Dark Elevation actually weren't the worst things in the world, because they served a purpose, but once they got their new television deal, they took them off of YouTube. I understand that. But my God, the amount of tribalistic bullshit, the amount of, inflated self-worth that some fans have. And again, I get fired up about a lot of shit. There's plenty of people I don't care for. There are plenty of people I don't want to see on my television. You know what I do? I maybe rant about it a little bit in the video, but in reviews, but I will try to minimize and skip past it. And the reason I'll try to skip past it is because it's not worth the energy. But the reason I wanted to do this video, before I dive into a couple other talents and everything, and talk about a couple other topics, is I just wanted to goddamn share my passion and my love of professional wrestling and for the human beings that do beat up their bodies. The biggest one, at least for a while, was Stephanie Vaquer, or Vaquer, however, Vaquer, I believe is how you say it. She had that great match against Mercedes Moné, but her dream was to go to WWE. She might have taken less money, but she basically, she didn't shun AEW. She would have signed because she wanted to get big money. But you know a big reason why she wasn't going to sign there? Roosh. Look up Roosh, Stephanie Vaquer, and how Roosh ended up basically siding with a guy that beat up Stephanie pretty badly, allegedly, covering my ass here. But yeah, you want to side with somebody who's an alleged abuser. And I say alleged because, again, covering my ass here. Yeah, you can go straight to hell on that Roosh. Roosh, who at best was a mid-card guy that, gave people the horns, whatever the hell that means. And that guy basically cost him one of the best in the goddamn world. Somebody that I had only seen a little bit of, and then she shined in that match against Mercedes Moné. But her dream was to go to WWE. She had a tryout match a number of years ago. It didn't work out, but then she went out and proved her own self-worth. So, even if you were an AEW fan, if you have logic and reason and an attached brainstem, which I know doesn't apply to all wrestling fans, no matter what company, you should want your favorite to go over here. You can want them to be in your favorite company, and there's nothing wrong, by the way, with having a favorite style or a favorite match type or, whatever, or presentation. That is okay. But to be disrespectful just because somebody didn't sign with your favorite company, a company, by the way, that has so many wrestlers under contract, I'm referring to AEW right now, they have so many wrestlers under contract, there are people that have been paid for months, even over a year, if not two, and have barely been on television. When was the last time you saw Scorpio Sky on television? When was the last time you saw, like Lance Archer until recently? I had barely seen him on television. There are just people that will bop in and out, and that's okay. You keep people fresh. You have people on the indies. You have people doing their stuff. That's fine. But to me, having a toy box full of these wrestlers doesn't benefit anybody, to the point that if you have somebody like Stephanie and you want to keep somebody like Roosh, when you probably could have just paid him his contract and let him go, maybe Stephanie would have been there. Now, would Stephanie have shined as high and as bright? Probably not, because she wanted to go to WWE. Now, if her dream was to earn big money and be in AEW, that's fine. That is okay too. Mariah May, who arguably had the greatest feud in the women's division history. And that's not exactly a long list, because to be perfectly honest, even though there are talented women, Thunder Rosa, and there's Deonna Purrazzo, Taya Valkyrie, there's Chris Statlander, they had Jade, they had Nyla Rose, they have all these people. They also have Riho that they kept bringing on television for some goddamn reason. They have plenty of women. They have Athena, who's been in Purgatory as a Ring of Honor Women's Champion. They also have Mercedes Moné, who is about as back in the ring as she will ever be, and also is an insufferable douche on the goddamn mic. My opinion. But that does not mean that she does not have a star quality to her. But Mariah May, that feud with Toni Storm. Now, there were plot holes and potholes that you could have honestly sent a goddamn, missile through. But there was enough of a cohesive narrative that they tried to thread together that it worked. She was the understudy. She betrayed her after winning the Women's Owen Cup. By the way, the two winners, it would be, or actually technically the finals would be 2 women, 1 Owen Cup, or 2 men, 1 Owen Cup. You're welcome. That being said, she betrayed Toni, beat her, and then, Toni went off on a spiral, was gone for a bit, came back as the rock star Toni and did all that, and they had their Hollywood ending match, which was the perfect way. If Mariah May's career, if her run in AEW is going to end, great, it ends there. She is able to go out literally having one hell of a goddamn match. Even if there were parts of it I didn't necessarily like, or done without, the tax and a few other things that they broke out. I believe they broke out tax. So many matches have. There were a few points where I was like, okay, maybe this is a bit much, but they also kept it a nice tight 13 minutes and laid their shit in. Mariah May has been off television since. Now, it's okay. You want to have her off for a little bit, have her heel. She'd been doing vlogs, I believe, with Harley and some other stuff. But she ended up, basically posting a whole bunch of stuff from AEW, pictures and everything, looking as only she could look, and has a great star quality to her. Now, I saw a little bit of her in Stardom, her teaming with Mina Shirakawa. She improved, and she signed with AEW for good money, I imagine, and really earned a lot of it. Now, if she wanted to leverage that and get an even bigger contract with AEW, great. But her dream was to go to WWE. There's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. There were people that went, and I'll segue into stuff about the Attitude Era here in a bit, but there were people that wanted to go to WCW for a lighter schedule and stuff like that, or people from WCW that wanted to go to WWE. It's a vicious cycle because nobody ever fucking learns as far as like running a business and running wrestling like a business and running it like the actual wrestling business and respecting talents and balancing, on a goddamn tightrope and everything and making sure that you take care of the talents you need to take care of. And then some people that may work hard but will never move up the card are just there. Mariah May did not betray AEW. None of these talents that left AEW betrayed AEW. Adam Copeland, when he went to the AEW, I was there for his debut. It was a loud pop in front of 6,000 people, 6,500 people in an 18,000 seat arena. It was really depressing to see him look out on both sides and only see fans really on one side of the arena. But he didn't betray WWE by going. He wanted to go and earn big money. FTR, they didn't betray WWE by sticking with AEW for big money. Nothing wrong with that. No wrestler is betraying a goddamn brand or betraying the fans or even betraying themselves. If they're holding true to themselves and they want to earn the most money and do what they love, there's nothing wrong with that. You have to balance that shit. That's where the tribalistic bullshit comes into play. Because then, and again, if you think that somebody is betraying AEW, like you have any goddamn investment besides buying the pay-per-views, which I bought every single fucking pay-per-view, by the way. I have spent my own hard-earned money. I don't pirate shit. I'm not going to knock you guys if you do, but I will do it even if AEW as a brand has kind of faded a little bit. They're building some stuff back, but there's still stuff that they need to cut to get out of their own way. WWE's weekly product is practically unwatchable. I haven't watched a full Raw since the Raw after WrestleMania. I'm probably not going to watch a full Raw for a bit. At least until, my Monday mystery movie watching takes a bit of a break, because that's something I do, and I don't necessarily want to watch Raw that much. I don't bother watching SmackDown because it's 3 hours. It's on cable, and I can't watch NXT. I can barely watch Collision because Collision often is taped, and there are just issues with AEW that they need to fix, and I could do a whole video on that. I might talk about a few of the issues here. No talent is betraying a company. They're not betraying you. They don't owe you shit. You know what they owe? They owe it to themselves. They appreciate the fans. At least I'm guessing. There are plenty of wrestlers out there that appreciate the fans. The true fans that want to see these people not only succeed, but stay as healthy as possible, even though they beat their bodies up and put themselves through hell for our entertainment, also for the love of the sport. So no Mariah, Stephanie, Ricky, the Lucha Bros, Adam Copeland, FTR, various others, Malachi Black, or now Aleister Black, Rusev. They didn't betray their respective companies. You could argue that maybe Aleister and Rusev went there to just coast, because that was stuff that a lot of veterans did in WCW. You could argue with that. Nothing wrong with that. But to act like they betrayed anybody, that's some bullshit. And y'all really need to pull your fucking heads out of your asses if that's what you're thinking. Because you just sound like goddamn idiots. Again, appreciate whatever company you want. Appreciate whatever brand, whatever style you want. But y'all gotta take it fucking easy. Now I'm going to talk about the fact that the difference in the product. Now, WWE, their big shows contain so many goddamn ads. I'm not just talking about on the mat. So much advertising and so many video packages and so much stuff, and that's fine. TKO, Endeavor, whatever the fuck the goddamn conglomeration is, they're trying to earn the most money and milk every last dollar. Just milk it like a tea. This does not look like milking. Moving on. They're trying to get the most money out, and that's the whole thing. They have insane ticket prices, and people are paying for it, but they're also not getting a lot of value out of it. Yeah, you might catch the occasional really, really good match. There have been some really good matches so far this year. Io, Bianca, and Rhea was an incredible match at WrestleMania. And then you had Cody versus John Cena. That was the opposite of an incredible match. John Cena's heel turn, while monumental at first, has been a total goddamn flop because he doesn't have it anymore. And bless him, it hasn't worked. I can barely, keep up with any of this stuff and hold any level of interest. But their big shows either have matches I don't care about, or they just contain so many advertisements that even when we get to something I care about, there's stuff that stands out, but a lot of the product is not holding me. AEW, Dynamite is often pretty much the same. There's one or two pretty good segments. There's a lot of matches that don't really fucking mean anything. Jon Moxley is the worst world champion that they have had, and yes, I recognize Chris Jericho was the first world champion. They also were on the ascent at that point. I was there when Moxley beat Bryan Danielson at WrestleDream last year. Tony Khan could have honestly knocked people over with a feather. Not because we expected Bryan Danielson to win. We actually expected him to lose. I think the vast majority did. But it's the way they did it. And the stuff with Dick the Boozer and everybody, including, Yuta, who needs a haircut and to be put on the opposite side of the barricade with fans, they need to do better. And also, their pay-per-views need to be cut down by about 3 matches. Getting everybody on the card and giving them a pay-per-view payout, even though they're on guarantee contracts. And they're still getting decent buy rates. In this climate, at $50 a pop in the U.S., and I imagine Canada, I'm not totally sure. I know they're cheaper in the U.K., and bless you guys. Especially bless you guys for staying up to watch that shit live, because that is ridiculous how, dedicated you guys are. But the thing is they will often just go overboard with so many matches that go 2 or 3 times as long as they need to. At WrestleDream, if they had cut 3 matches, wouldn't have mattered. I hate to say it, but if they had cut Private Party and the Bucks, bless Private Party, they were over, but once they lost, nobody cared about the Bucks. I think I heard like 3 people cheering, and it was probably their close family that traveled up there. Nobody cared about Jack Perry. The whole point is, it's a not too hot, not too cold situation. You have to find a way to balance that shit. WWE has become so modernized, pasteurized, bastardized, sanitized, however you want to go about it, that the blood that they use often is fake, not always. There are some hard ways, there are some stuff, and they do the unintentional bleeding, and that's okay because they have a lot more invested in these and are a more corporate thing. Now, I'm not saying, by the way, that you can't have blood in wrestling. You should have blood in wrestling. Having blood in wrestling, and in the right spots, men feud, women feud, title match, grudge match, I don't care. Big tag team, gauntlet, doesn't matter. Or big tag team, like grudge match. Maybe not a gauntlet. I don't think you need people bleeding in a gauntlet. That'd be a lot of blood. But you take a look at what AEW's done. It gets to the point where you see people bleeding, and then you see them bleed more, and then by the end of a pay-per-view, you're like, okay, what else you got? Oh, that's it? And repeating the same stuff, going from not even strength to strength, but, oh, we had blood here, There needs to be crowd control, quality control is what I'm trying to say. There needs to be stuff where AEW reel stuff back a little bit, saves big moments for their pay-per-views, doesn't overextend, because yes, you're charging people $50 in the US and Canada for these shows. You want to make sure you give them the most bang for their buck. If Double or Nothing had 2-3 matches cut out of it, would it have mattered? It probably would have been seen as one of the greatest pay-per-views. There are pay-per-views that I start out loving, or pay-per-views that I accept are going to be probably middle of the road, and some have great moments, and then they keep going, and they keep going, and they keep going, and they keep going, and they keep going. And that is the big thing about it. You can have a large roster and understand how to utilize it. That's the thing. WWE sometimes forgets that they have a large roster, and they have these small cards that have so many, jumbled pieces between. It's too streamlined and it's too sanitized. And then AEW is just uncontrolled, ridiculous chaos that eventually just becomes like a mixture of ECW on a WCW budget. And that's really right there where I start to have issues with how AEW will treat their fans. Because I'm not saying they don't do long-term storytelling, but you have to do interesting long-term storytelling. WWE often stumbles into their stuff. I refuse to believe Triple H is all that intelligent of a booker. I don't believe Tony Khan understands the term booker at all, but he thinks he does. He can make dream matches, but he can't put together a coherent television program, or often a coherent pay-per-view. There are moments in matches that stick out. Will Ospreay's been a big get for them, and that's another one. Oh, he wanted to run away from the grind in WWE. He wanted to spend more time with his family. Whatever. It is what it is. He probably could reel it back a little bit on defending AEW as much as he does, because it does kind of sound like he's a little bit weird and a little bit And settle down, bruv. Hangman's been coming back. They got good pieces going on. The women's division has been excelling, despite the fact Mercedes Moné keeps cutting promos like a goddamn AI bot's about to malfunction. And just with bad wigs, like she's an extra in a Tyler Perry movie. But there are strengths to both companies. We need to respect that. We need to appreciate that. And watch what you want to watch. Cut out the bullshit and just watch what you want to watch, because wrestling fans are creatures of habit, and they are the most dedicated people in the world. You know what they do when they see something that they just don't fucking care for anymore? And they keep seeing it and seeing it, no matter what the company is, no matter if they like the talents or whatever. You know what they're going to do? They're going to turn it off. Speaking of turning it off, I'm turned off from how some fans have reacted about Jacy Jayne's shocking NXT Women's title win. Now, I want to say this much. I've been a big fan of Jacy Jayne. Y'all know that the times I've reviewed NXT, I have praised her. When I reviewed NXT 2.0, when I was still reviewing weekly NXT, I would pay attention to anything Jacy goddamn Jayne did. One, she makes the most of her television time. Facial expressions, body language, and just the fact that she stands out. She's improved in the ring dramatically. She's fought through injuries. She had a face mask thing at one point. It also does not hurt that she is hot as hell, and she is. She looks great. And whether she was ever going to be a world champion or not, it was necessitated to do the switch when Stephanie and Jordan had their match at Battleground. It was certainly a match. It wasn't bad. But Stephanie was going to be called up. So, Fatal Influence, and Fallon Henley, who is also somebody that has dramatically improved from being Tasha Price in AEW and has come over as Fallon Henley. That was one that was a little bit like subdued, shall we say, 'cause she was mostly on Dark, but there were people like, oh, I wish she would have stayed in AEW. WWE offered her a better deal, or, better opportunity, and quite frankly, she has made the most of that opportunity. Plus, the turn from being the country girl to the smoke show that she is. Not that she didn't look good before. Good on her. Jasmine is also there. But Jacy has worked so hard and has done so many great things. And I'm not saying every single thing has worked. I'm not saying she's a world beater in the ring. I'm not saying she's a 5-star in-ring general. I'm not saying she's Mildred goddamn Burke and she's going to set the wrestling world for women ablaze. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that Jacy Jayne is somebody I'm a fan of, and I'm thrilled to see her achieve this success because Jacy has worked hard. There were people that were trying to, discredit and stuff like that. And yes, it's shocking. Would I have done it that way? No. Would I have had her win the title? Yes. But it's a little bit shocking they decided to do that. I guess they felt they needed to replenish stuff on the main roster after they released some people, some that made sense and some that were, well, okay, that was certainly surprising. I don't know why they did that. But Jordan is going to go to SmackDown. And Jordan will get exposed as being somebody that was a big fish in a small pond in Impact and is good. I'm sorry, I do not see Jordan Grace being somebody that's going to be a long-term main eventer. I just fucking don't see it. Stephanie I see as being a long-term main eventer and succeeding wildly on Raw. Because how could she not? That is, as a friend of mine, a mutual of mine, Noah, put up on Twitter, that's a face card. That's one hell of a face card. I forget how you word it, Noah, just in case you happen to be watching this particular clip, in case you clipped this part out. Insane face card, I think, might have been it. But in all seriousness, she also can work. Now, she's somebody, I hope when they do Worlds Collide, has protection because of some of the people in AAA that she had issues with. Such as, I don't remember the woman's name, but one that was harassing her because of Stephanie's, allegedly abusive ex. Again, covering my ass here. And she had to get a restraining order against her. Stephanie had to get a restraining order against this woman. So, yeah, that woman's lucky she has a fat ass because that's the only goddamn positive that she has. And she's not going to end up working much in WWE. Nor should she. If you're going to lay with a dog, you're going to end up getting fleas. Close enough to the goddamn thing. The deal is, though, with Jacy Jayne, that hard work has paid off. Now, it is sudden. I'm not saying she's going to hold it forever. Fuck, she could end up losing it at Great American Bash. She could only have it for a little bit. I think she'll hold it until at least sometime in the fall. And I think she should. Maybe Fallon could end up beating her. Maybe Sol Ruca could drop the North American, I almost said the U.S., the North American Women's Championship and go after that. That would be cool. Kalani Jordan's a challenger that's lined up. There's a wealth of talent in the women's division just in NXT alone that Jacy can work with. And Jacy has earned this because Jacy has worked hard and it has been proven. It has been shown on television that feud that she had with Gigi Dolan, now back to Priscilla Kelly. I wish her nothing but the best because I got to meet her on a few shows before she signed with NXT, and she was very nice to meet, very nice to talk to as well. Got to see Priscilla Kelly and Thunder Rosa in one of the best matches I've ever seen live because they worked hard. They were in front of about 125, 150 people, but you know what? They worked hard. The whole thing is, Jacy deserves this. I'm so fucking thrilled for her because, my God, what the stuff she's fought through looks great, wrestles well enough that she can get by, and again, makes the most of any television time that she gets. So no, she's not going to be a super long-term champion. If she is, as long as she keeps putting in the work, let's be happy. Speaking of being happy, let's be happy with the end of this video because this kind of was all over the place. I kind of took a few topics and sandwiched them together, but I just decided to essentially do this because I need to get some shit off my chest. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. What do you think of the wrestling tribalism talk? What do you think of the fact that, which do you prefer, WWE or AEW? I could have included New Japan, but I have not watched a bunch of New Japan in a while. I saw a few Nick Wayne's Best Super Junior matches, and he's done very well. But what wrestling do you prefer? Let me know in the comments. And I'm just going to say, like, share, subscribe. We got Twitter, we got Letterboxd, we got Blue Sky handles in the description. And I'm John Ritlin. Until we meet again, happy trails to you.